Let's spend this segment here on the New Orleans Saints, specifically Kendre Miller. I told you on Friday things I was looking for in the Saints-Giants game. Not necessarily whether or not the Saints could win the game. And you saw that it wasn't the most thrilling and riveting game, especially early on Sunday. Just wanted to see some of the young guys. We've seen some really good stuff from both offensive tackles for the Saints this year. We feel pretty confident in those two young corners that they've got out there. But Kendre Miller is kind of a wild card. You just don't know a lot. Of course, you're well aware the Saints take Kendre Miller with the 71st overall pick in the third round in the 2023 draft. And fast forward to his rookie season, he's inactive in week 1. He did not play in week 2. Then he did play in weeks 3 through 9, but it was far from extensive. He got 9 carries for 34 yards in the game in Green Bay. Then 2 weeks later, 12 carries against New England in that blowout of the Patriots, 34-0. But he had 12 carries for 37 yards. Those are the only 2 games in which he had more than 3 rushing attempts until the final game of the season when he did come back against Atlanta, and he had 73 yards on 13 carries. He also had a reception for 6 yards in that game. But it was not a rookie season to write home about. And then you get to year 2, and in the first workout of the first practice in training camp, you go out for an extended period of time. And that's the point where I basically wave the flag and go, I don't need Kendre Miller. This guy's never ready to play. What are they doing? Why are you keeping him around? And I was saying that based on his availability. You've got a guy who gets hurt, and he's on the injury list. He's not practicing, and then he goes on IR. And I'm just looking at this going, like, this guy's never going to play. Well, come to find out, Ross Jackson, LouisianaSports.net, and Locked On Saints reports that Kendre Miller was, like, ready to come back. And Dennis Allen was just kind of fed up with him. So he's like, well, you're not coming back. You're going on IR. And so I want to try to be fair here, understanding that I did not have all the information at that time and probably still don't have all the information, but I have new information that suggests, okay, maybe he didn't quite get a fair shake. Maybe Dennis Allen had a bit of an axe to grind because knew he was under pressure, and one of the guys who was expected to help this offense wasn't available enough in his mind, so he just hadn't had enough of it, and he kind of banished Kendre Miller. Maybe that's the case. Maybe that's overanalyzing it, but I'm just going to offer that that's a possibility to extend this conversation. And so at this point, you did not have Kendre Miller active for the first 6 weeks of the season. He comes back against Denver. He has 6 carries in that game for 36 yards. Next week, against the Chargers, 3 carries for 16 yards, then inactive for 4 more weeks. He comes back against the Giants, and we knew that he was going to have an opportunity to carry the football, and I was saying, I think this offensive line's getting a little bit healthier. I think they're going to be able to run block against a really bad Giants defensive line. It's time to hammer away, and let's see what Kendre Miller can do. And he averaged 3.2 yards per carry. You see some flashes with Kendre Miller, and that's the first thing you'd like to see. If you never see any of that, well, then you got some issues. There are some flashes. I liked some of the things I saw in the Atlanta game at the end of last year. I liked a couple of the carries in the game against the Giants. There's a little bit of explosiveness. There is athleticism. There's reason to believe, but I'm going to need to see a little bit more sustained production. Now, there was a time 10 weeks ago where you could suggest Kendre Miller was the future of the Saints ground game and the future of the Saints running back position because Alvin Kamara had not gotten a deal worked out, and it looked like the Saints really weren't interested in doing that. So you were going to have to move on from Kamara once his contract was up, and Kendre Miller would be the guy. Well, now Alvin Kamara has signed, and you are going to have him for 2 more years, and he's going to be the face of your ground game and your rushing attack. How much can Kendre Miller take off of his plate? Because Kendre Miller is still young and cheap. I mean, how often do you need me to say the words young and cheap when I'm talking about the Saints? Constant. It's all I ever talk about. So he is going to be a part of this deal. The question is how big a part? Because honestly, I would really like him to take a significant amount off of Alvin's plate. Right now, Alvin Kamara is not showing a ton of ill effects from being among the NFL's leaders in touches. But you have to think eventually Father Time wins that battle. I don't know if that's this coming Sunday. I don't know if that's the end of this year. I don't know if it's training camp next year. I don't know if it's late next year. I don't know when he's going to certainly lose a step and not quite be as dynamic. And at that point, you'd like to just take something off his plate and dish it over to Kendre Miller. And they kind of tried that on Sunday. I don't know if it was super effective, but I'm not ready to throw all of that on Kendre Miller. But what I will say is you can't, in good faith, expect Alvin Kamara to be Superman for 2 more years. You just can't. You can expect him to be productive. You can expect him to be steady. You can expect him to be durable. He's always been those things. But Kendre Miller's got to do more than he's doing right now. And I was bummed out on Sunday at how ineffective most of what he was doing was. Now, again, there is a piece to that pie that is very much on the offensive line. I get that. There are a lot of factors in place here. And then Derek Carr goes out, and although you were trying to win the game late doing that, like you limit the offense at that point because the teams know what you're going to do. You've got a guy that they're not comfortable with at quarterback and Haener, and you're going to try to lean on the ground game real heavily. Plus, you're trying to run the clock out. So, okay. But that's something in his year 22 season, which is where Kendre Miller is right now. Over the next 4 weeks, I need to feel good about it at some point. They got to get him involved some way. Whether it's traditional ground game between the tackles, whether it's catching the ball a little bit more, the screen game. I need something from Kendre Miller. Now, you don't have Taysom Hill back there to take some of those carries, so if you're trying to run the ball and you want to take it off Kamara's plate, okay, there's your guy in Kendre Miller. You've got him under contract for a couple more years. You're going to have that rookie option. These are important things for this franchise. Every little piece you can add to this roster, every little dollar that you can save elsewhere is a big, big deal for a franchise that's standing at the bottom of the mountain looking up at this rebuild. It's just a long way. And everything you can get to go right matters. And 10 weeks ago, I would have said you're in big, big trouble. I got some new information when Dennis Allen was fired that maybe this wasn't a fair shake. Well, now Dennis Allen's gone. Now Kendre Miller's healthy. Now there's no reason to force feed Alvin Kamara because you're not necessarily in the playoff mix. I just want to see some positives from Kendre Miller here. And that I don't think is too much to ask. And if you can get the offensive line playing well and get a solid ground game going behind them, that is something you can build on going into next season because Penning's going to be back and Fuaga's going to be back and Ruiz is going to be back and McCoy's going to be back. You figure Patrick's back and Kamara and Kendre Miller back. This is your running game. This is what it's going to look like. Foster Moore, like this is it. The defense is going to have some turnover. Wide receiver, you've got some work to do there, and we'll see what Olave's future holds. But this is your running game. This is what you're going to be next year. So let's get that thing rolling a little bit. If you're New Orleans, I know Clint Kubiak will give every effort to making sure that happens.
Hey, it's on. Thanks for watching Hunt on Saints. Before you leave, help us out a little bit. Hit that like button, leave your comments in the section below, and hit that subscribe button so you get all our content right here from Hunt on Saints. We'll see you next time.